delegates, colleagues, and friends. It is indeed a privilege to address you all as the DDA Green Expo 2026 unfolds. This expo is a significant initiative as it brings together the many dimensions of Delhi future: our parks, our gardens, riverfronts, our forests, and the biodiversity assets, and the systems through which we plan, restore, and manage them. Over the next 2 days, the platform brings together policy dialogue, technical discussion, demonstrations, and knowledge exchange to examine how these systems can be strengthened in the face of climate risk and urban growth. Delhi today stands at an important juncture. As the city continues to grow and densify, the role of green and ecological systems becomes increasingly central. Parks, gardens, wetlands, floodplains, and urban forests are no longer viewed only as recreational or aesthetic spaces. They are essentially the components of a healthy and climate resilient city. This expo has been conceived to demonstrate how these systems can be strengthened, restored, and integrated more effectively into the urban planning and development, moving beyond the growth-centric approaches towards resilience, balance, and long-term public well-being. As the Principal Commissioner of Horticulture Department, I am pleased that this expo will present this full spectrum of work to the public. Through dedicated zones, visitors will engage with the Delhi's green ecosystem, from neighborhood parks and riverfront landscapes to biodiversity parks, wetlands, urban forests, and emerging landscape innovations. Each zone has been designed to help citizens understand how these green assets contribute to a cleaner air, thermal comfort, biodiversity conservation, and overall urban well-being, while complementing the thematic discussions, panels, and masterclasses taking place across the expo. Importantly, the expo is not intended as a static display. Through immersive exhibits, interactive installations, and digital showcase, it will demonstrate how native species selection, wetland restoration, floodplain management, and nature-based solutions function in practice. These demonstrations are intended to translate planning concepts into tangible, replicable applications for cities and institutions. The DDA Green Expo also reflects the authority's broader commitment to embedding ecological thinking within planning and implementation. By showcasing scientific horticulture practices, river and forest rejuvenation models, and green infrastructure innovations, the Expo reinforces the idea that Delhi's future development must be grounded in ecological balance and long-term sustainability, also supported by appropriate policy frameworks, institutional coordination, and investment mechanisms. This platform is equally intended to encourage dialogue with industry, academia, civil society, and citizens, and to expose Delhi to new ideas, technologies, and governance approaches that can strengthen environmental stewardship and climate readiness. The diversity of sessions, ranging from policy panels to technical masterclasses and research presentations, reflects the need for multi-stakeholder engagement in addressing complex urban challenges. Most importantly, this event is not limited to the duration of the expo. It marks a continuous process, one in which Delhi's green spaces are made more resilient, better managed, and more accessible to its people. The knowledge exchanged, partnerships explored, and awareness generated here will help inform future policies, guide community participation, and reinforce Delhi's long-term commitment to environmental responsibility. I would like to place on record my appreciation for all departments, experts, and partners who have contributed to making this expo possible. Your dedication is helping build a Delhi that is greener, cleaner, and healthier for the generations to come. I extend a warm welcome to all visitors, stakeholders, and citizens to the DDA Green Expo 2026. Let us come together to celebrate nature, learn from it, and reaffirm our shared duty to protect and nurture the environment. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's 14th February. It's like we are telling Delhi, will you be our Valentine? The environment of Delhi, the air of Delhi We are giving it the love that we have always received. This is the city that sustains us. This is the most beautiful Valentine we can have. And it's time to cherish it, it's time to nurture it. The next session on building climate ready cities through nature based infrastructure is going to examine nature based solutions such as parks, wetlands, urban forests, spun city approaches, and biodiversity corridors as vital urban infrastructure for flood mitigation, cooling, climate resilience, public health, and floodplain restoration. It also explores how circular materials and improved waste systems can support resilient green infrastructure alongside an interactive display of relevant models for Indian cities. Our panelists for this discussion are going to be Mr. Saurabh Popley, Associate Professor, Department of Architecture, SPA, Bhopal. Dr. Yogesh Dubey, Professor, IIFM. Please welcome the panelists, everyone. Professor Fayaz A. Khudsar, CEMDE. Let's welcome Professor Fayaz. And Ms. Juhi Gupta, Sustainability Director, South Asia Markets, Tetra Pak. Please welcome Ms. Juhi. Our moderator for this panel is going to be our Director, Landscape DDA. Please welcome Ms. Nilima Soni.
So good morning, everyone. Rather, it's good noon now. Welcome to the panel first on the DDA Green Expo 2026, where we're going to be talking about climate-ready cities. I would like to begin by thanking the DDA Greens team and our collaborators who've brought together this platform, which is eminent and very important. This gives us a chance to have a dialogue and to come up with something which is the need of the hour. As someone working within the Delhi Development Authority for more than 2 decades, I see firsthand how critical is that these conversations go beyond discussions and become part of framing policies, design decisions, and long-term stewardship. Let me start with a simple reflection here. When we speak about infrastructure in our cities, what is the first thing that comes to our mind? We only think of rails, road networks, sewage networks, transport, water systems. Yet there is a very critical infrastructure that is not made in concrete and steel, our ecological infrastructure. What forms that infrastructure are various components, our floodplains that act as sponge, our wetlands that filter and make it recreate the ecosystems, our tree cover that actually bring down the temperature. And these are the natural resources that actually allow the cities to function at a completely different scale. Today, as our cities confront rising temperatures, flooding, ecological degradation, these natural systems are no longer peripheral. They should become a part of our designing decisions and our policy frameworks. The real question before us is not that do we understand that it is important. The real question here is that how do we embed ecology in our planning, in everyday planning and governance structures. That is precisely why this panel here has ecologists, industry practitioners, designers, and policy thinkers. Because climate resilience, as we all know, cannot be built in silos. It has to be a collaborative effort. With that, let's just begin grounding ourselves in the ecological foundation of building climate-ready cities. Saurabh, if ecology is infrastructure, then planning frameworks must treat it that way. So from a planning perspective, how can a statutory framework such as a city's master plan and development controls be strengthened to recognize ecological systems like floodplains, wetlands, or green corridors, and as primary infrastructure assets in our urban planning rather than just treating as zones where no one can go or treated as residual areas?
Thank you very much. I'd like to appreciate the Delhi Development Authority for this very insightful and a very timely initiative in refocusing our attention towards nature and ecology. It's common for as a spatial planner and as an academic working, in the spatial planning discipline. It's fairly common for us to come across the word ecology, and I think what's interesting here is that, and on this panel, there are actually ecologists that kind of can facilitate this dialogue, because very often when in spatial plans, for instance, I'll give you an instance how ecology is misunderstood. The Bhopal development plan, since I'm from Bhopal, let's speak a bit about Bhopal, and then I'll come to Delhi. Mentions the word nature 13 times in a document that's about 1,000 pages long, and not a single reference out of those 13 is actually to nature as we understand nature. It's always the nature of infrastructure, the nature of business, the nature of politics, etc. So here's the difficulty, that something that's as important, something that gives us the air that we breathe, something that gives us the water that we drink, something that gives us the soil, the food that we eat, something that gives us joy and happiness, is nowhere mentioned in the entire development plan report. And at the same time, we are facing an urbanization that has no parallel in history except for China. So, that's on the one hand, that we have an unprecedented urbanization where we're looking at the urbanization of 600 million individuals and families, and we don't understand the natural systems that we live in, and therefore the Niti Aayog report says that 70% of our surface waters are polluted. In many cities now, in Hyderabad, there are scientific reports saying that the groundwater, that the sewage has reached, you have uric acid metabolites found in the aquifer, and so it is with many other cities. So here is a case where our engineering approaches have clearly failed. They endanger the lives of 820 million Indians, as per Niti Aayog reports. That and the numbers are stark. So I won't go into the numbers right now, but I think that one of the important things that needs to happen is that we need to foreground the notion of what ecology is in its real sense, in its true sense, not in the sense of a metaphor, not in the sense of a metaphor of ecology. That we planted some trees, so there's ecology. But the question is that ecology, if ecology is to exist at all, then the only way that it can exist is on its own terms, not in the terms that we prescribe for it. And by that, what I really mean is that just as planning is multiscalar and multidimensional, ecology spans all scales. It ranges from a single flower bud, as Pradeep Krishan very famously said, that a single flower bud is the scale, or the mycorrhizal network, which is unseen to the naked eye. Hundreds of kilometers of mycorrhizal network below a single person's feet. 10,000 different species of microbes in a teaspoonful of soil, and then a tree. Now the question is that, if where are we planting the trees, and what is the tree? Our road networks, which are primarily the open space network of the city, have no space for trees. If that is going to happen, then you will have this huge gradient of ecological services across the city. You'll have some areas which are well provided for, where nature is abundant, or at least which are cooler than other parts of the city. So the problem that we're now seeing in many of the Indian cities is that several cities exhibit microclimates that are that stretch or that test human tolerance, and also other species. So we've made species for people, but we've made cities for people, but those cities are now failing us. And so I know that I'm running out of time, so I will just stop here. But I'd like to underscore the importance of understanding ecology on the terms of ecological science, and that landscape architecture and the crucial role that DDA plays here is that the landscape profession and the landscape architecture, the landscape planning is really the bridging profession between the ecological science and spatial planning disciplines.
Thank you, Saurabh. Dr. Fayaz, your work on biodiversity parks and the restoration of the floodplains has completely changed the way Delhi as a city looks at ecological restoration. So, based on your work with biodiversity parks and urban floodplains, if I may say, which ecological function, according to you, tend to be the most undervalued or overlooked in our urban planning or development controls?
Thank you, madam, and thank you, DDA, for organizing such a function, which not only bringing expert but a lot of your students. I can see it's a wonderful occasion. Thank you. In fact, you know that I am a student of ecology and very harsh in my presentation, because when I see surrounding me and suffering of my daughter, I always feel that I should be loud enough and speak out. I see that ecosystem approach in development plan of urban greens, when you see, is completely ignored. And what happens when you ignore it? It leads to loss of very, valuable ecosystem services. And that, in fact, is very important and critical ecosystem function for keeping a resilient city. And that is very important to see. And why I'm telling that the entire rivers itself completely misunderstood. A river is not a pipeline. It is not a pipeline to carry water from one place to other place. It is neither a place to get sand and boulders, nor a marketable commodity that you bottle it and sell in the market. It's a living system. Then where we failed and how we see, when we look at the river is not the main channel and floodways or waterways. It is riparian zone. What is riparian zone? The place where river water always kisses. Water comes, goes back. Water comes, goes back. That is the riparian zone. Then you have active floodplain. Then you have natural levees or embankment. Then you have upland. And these systems integrated together makes a riverine ecosystem. And for understanding it, looking at the fluvial dynamics is very important. And why it is important? Because this is the fluvial dynamics through which a river communicates. How it communicates? It erodes, transports, and deposits the silt. And therefore, to overcome this missing ecological function, Delhi Development Authority and Center for Environmental Management of Degraded Ecosystem, Delhi University, evolved and implemented a very novel idea, that is biodiversity parks, for the first time in Delhi, perhaps in the world. And now it has become a global project where most of the states are adopting it, madam. So this is the basic ecological function, is ecosystem services.
Yeah.
Which is missing.
Thank you so much. Dr. Dubey, I'd like to bring in you here. Even when cities recognize the value of ecological systems, institutional and governance challenges often slow the progress or the pace. So from your experience in policy and institutional frameworks, what are the key barriers that prevent these ecological assets from being recognized as or treated as a core infrastructure? And are there any models globally or within India that are available, which one could actually act like replicable?
All right, thank you, Nilima. See, it's all about, mindset. Policy, the way we, develop guidelines, is all about how we start viewing a particular resource. So ecology has always been seen as an amenity in the urban context, and it has never been seen as, infrastructure. There has been a great amount of gray infrastructure bias whenever we talk about urban planning. So we talk about infrastructure, we say road, we would say electricity lines, we would say buildings, we would say sewerage system. But the moment we start talking about the natural humanities, the ecological assets would be seen as, open spaces, recreational spaces. So the moment you use this nomenclature of an open space, a recreational space, this actually becomes optional. So that is how we look at it. And it also a lot depends that in typical urban ecology and the kind of setting that we have, in our country, uh, urban ecology largely is being seen as, discretionary. It's an expendable, entity, especially to the times of land scarcity. Now, if you don't have land for something, you look at, these nature-based areas. So it becomes expendable that you would be able to, do away with all these things. They're not being seen as the service delivery systems. Then there is absence of, explicit legal status to these structures in the urban, semi-urban. We should not just talk about the urban areas, because now even rural areas are badly getting impacted by, the so-called, the way we are basically visualizing development. The statutes that we have, Environmental Protection Act or Indian Forest Act or Forest Conservation Act or Wildlife Protection Act, they all act in silos. Somehow they have not been able to incorporate, this urban planning process is not, appropriately incorporated in these legal processes and legal proceedings. So that is what is creating, that kind of a divide. And then we do not have any ecosystem based planning approach. Like for a city, let us say, how much wetland must be required per capita, or how many trees must be required, per citizen or per capita. So these kinds of elements are never included in the planning process, even, when future development is being done. And I think Delhi is a classical example. Delhi from city became a state, and probably this is of the size of some of the nations in this world.
Yeah.
It takes, 4 or 5 hours sometimes to move from one end of the Delhi to the other end of the Delhi. Countries like Singapore probably would be of, their countries, and probably would be of same size or, matching sizes. So as the urban areas are going to expand, unless we have this ecosystem based planning approach, unless we have some KPIs, unless we have some matrices to measure, to measure the health of the city. LG Saab in this morning, he did, he has a dream for Delhi, that, and I really wish that this dream comes true, and it should come true soon. Within a year or so, that if you want your kids to breathe fresh air, I just met a student of mine 4 months back in Jaipur. He works with an organization in Delhi, and I said, "What are you doing in Jaipur?" He says, "Sir, my daughter is not able to cope with the air pollution in Delhi. So this is the decision that I've taken, that I've shifted my family to Jaipur. Twice in a week I come to Delhi, and 4 days in a week I work from home." So that's the kind of, so I really hope that he is able to get back his family back in Delhi, and we plan in a manner and bring in those necessary changes. So I personally see that the big problem is actually in terms of the mindsets, that ecosystem services, they are politically invisible. Because when we talk about ecosystem services, and I say that there's a plant in front of you, and this plant is giving you oxygen, you don't see that oxygen coming. But if I show you a mall, show you a restaurant, and it says your meal is coming from this restaurant, you forget that the meal is actually not coming from the restaurant. Meal is actually coming from some agricultural landscape, some agricultural ecosystem where the food is being grown. There are honeybees, there are butterflies that are actually, doing the job of pollination. Your food is coming from there. But you see what is visible to you. So ecosystem services, the benefits of, preserving and conserving the ecological systems around us, I use the word politically invisible because you don't see them in the short term. You don't see them in the short run. These are all long-term benefits. So I think we will have to bring in that change. I was expecting that, I may sound a little, sarcastic, but I was expecting that, this whole hall is going to be full of people. But I'm a little sad to see, and possibly that might actually also be the true reflection in terms of our seriousness towards the environment. So if I consider this as Delhi, then I see that close to around maybe 50% of Delhi seems to be interested in, environmental conservation and bringing that change in the planning process, and maybe half the city either is opposed to the idea or possibly is not interested in things like this. So it will also have to become the mass movement, the stakeholdership in terms of how do we connect individuals. When individuals start demanding, let's say if there are, half the Delhi demands pollution free air, or, demands spaces where the temperatures are not, soaring up high. They need the island heating effect to be taken care of in terms of how the Delhi is being greened, or for that matter, any city in this country is being greened. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of political, there's going to be a lot of pressure, and which in turn is going to guide. So the new framework of urban planning and development must focus that it is ecology inclusive. Unless it is ecology inclusive, things will continue to remain, little difficult. Bhopal is the place where me and Saurabh live. We possibly traverse on the same road. So some road expansion work is going on. And suddenly one fine day, 500 trees were being cut. Development is important, is required. But why only ecology has to sacrifice?
So that's where I think this dialogue is important, because that's
Yes.
what we are trying to say. So Juhi, your work brings in an important dimension that is often overlooked: materials and waste systems. So as we know, Tetra Pak has been implementing collection and recycling initiatives across many Indian cities. From your experience, what are the most pertinent on-ground challenges that you see in scaling the carton collection or its recycling? And among these, which barriers do you think cities can overcome immediately? That's a part that all of us need to adopt today to be able to generate less of what is lying around us.
Thank you for the question, Nilima. Tetra Pak has been engaged with managing a robust ecosystem on collection and recycling of cartons for almost 2 decades now. So overall, globally, if you look at it, Tetra Pak has about 200 recyclers they work with. We have collection recycling systems in 70 plus countries, and we ensure that the grassroots, actually the systems are really at the grassroots level of how collection recycling is happening. We have a very robust approach there. We start right from the waste generation, which is the consumers. So we work on waste sortation at source practices through various campaigns, awareness with the consumers. We also work with waste pickers, because carton, if you look at it, comes in low value waste. So how are they incentivized enough to collect cartons once they are disposed of by the consumers? So having the right price there. We have multiple collection channels. We work with the army, for example, collecting cartons from their depots. We have work with households, bulk generators. So I just want to cite one example of how we are doing it before I really dive into the key challenges. So we have a program with Alag Karo, one of the NGOs in Gurgaon, with Municipality of Gurgaon and GIZ and one more partner. This program has been running for last 15 years. And the program focuses on 3-way segregation of waste: wet waste, dry waste, and hazardous waste. It's called Teen Bin Har Din. Okay, Teen Bin, 3 bins. Okay? 3 bins. So again, this works with about 35,000 households, conglomerates, bulk generators, condominiums. So the idea is, it's very basic, to segregate waste at source, but the productivity, if you are able to do it, is immense. So we've seen great level of excitement within the consumers. There is a healthy competition within condominiums saying, okay, what is my segregation rate now? Am I 90%? How is the other building doing? How's the other society doing? So I think that sort of awareness is there, and ownership and accountability is there. Wet waste basically goes into a compost, into decentralized systems, and the compost from that is used in their own nurseries. So there is a lot of ownership because of their efforts. They're able to reuse it back into their gardens and nurseries. It's called Thela Mela. So basically the consumers are able to take that back. And again, because of better sortation, better recyclates are recovered by collection network. So the waste pickers have a more hygienic experience of collecting waste because it's sorted properly. Hazardous waste is separate. So by this initiative, almost about 40 tons of waste is diverted from going into landfills every day. So that is the program. And when you ask me what is the key challenges, there are many challenges. lack of source sortation of waste, inadequate infrastructure on collection and recycling, and then dependence on the informal sector. I think those are the challenges. But if you were to ask me only one challenge, I think waste sortation at source is one of the biggest challenge. Paradoxically, it is also one of the easiest to fix, because if you look at us, while we are our demeanor is that we don't care in littering and all in India, when we go to Singapore or Dubai, there is heightened civic sense in which comes at us, and we don't want to litter because there is a heavy penalty which we care for. So I think similar sort of civic sense now needs to come here, even if it needs having more penalty system in the approach that we have. We always want incentives for something good that we are doing, but are we also looking at penalties if we don't do it right? I think that is my message.
That's a completely different perspective, but that's probably the need of the hour today for our Indian cities. So, Saurabh, as our cities are densifying rapidly, trade-offs are often inevitable. So, from a design and a planning standpoint, what does realistically required to absorb these higher densities without compromising ecology as an infrastructure from a planning and a design perspective?
What a very interesting question. Dr. T.V. Ravichandran is sitting here in the audience. And, he's, so in his presentation, he'll probably cover some of this. It's a very interesting question. Bhopal, 40 years ago, Bhopal was 40 square kilometers. And 80 years ago, 70, 80 years ago, Hyderabad was 40 square kilometers. Today, Hyderabad is 1,600 square kilometers. And Bhopal is stretching at 1,000 square kilometers. And it has also annexed an area that is 10,000 square kilometers as a metropolitan region. And now there are metropolitan regions in Lucknow, in Indore, in Bhopal, and Hyderabad, and so many other cities. The question is that can we continue to design our cities in the same way as we have done before? I can prove to you that even if you take the very liberal and a very soft planning standard of density, then Bhopal could very easily satisfy its entire growth for the next 20 years in 1/3 of the land that it currently occupies. So why does it need more land? Why do these cities need more land? It's not for density. It's for another reason that is unspoken, and that is that land is economized, land is financialized, land translates to money, land is speculated upon. And the point being that here is a case of where we prioritize economic returns over well-being. And that translates to longer commutes, that translates to more cars on the road, that translates to more money out of the pocket of middle-class families, that translates to lesser money to be spent on children and welfare by the government, that translates to a whole host of other problems, including air pollution. And the numbers are staggering, and all of you know what the numbers are. So the point I'm trying to make here is that density isn't God-given. Density is something that we have assumed, and even by a soft density standard, which is at par with Europe and with America, which there is no need for, we have annexed far more land than we actually need, and perhaps that this land is better, put to use to service ecosystem, to provide ecosystem services, whether they're regulating or provisioning ecosystem services. And that's the reason why we don't probably have the clean water that we need desperately, the clean air that we need desperately. So the point, the related point from this is that if we are to make better cities, if our cities are to do a quantum jump in the way in which our cities provide for our citizens, then we will need to act on all of these levels. We'll need to act at the strategic level, where we, 15 years ago, I was speaking to an eminent architect who was worried about Delhi. He was an Aga Khan Award winner. And I proposed that, Delhi should be paying Haryana and Rajasthan for ecosystem services. And it's an idea for which the time has come. The city of Chamba, the city of Chamba pays for water to a village upstream. It pays for that village to maintain a forest upstream. So the payment for ecosystem services model is a well-tried and serviced concept everywhere in the world, and it works even in India. In fact, that was one of the premises by which the first Ramsar site of India, the Bhopal wetland complex, was established. So the answer to your question is actually it needs a layered response. We need to act at the strategic level where we protect the ecosystem services, especially the ecosystems that still have high levels of integrity. We need to work at the planning level where these systems are then notified as protected areas. The systems further need more elaboration at the tactical and the design level where we understand the designers are trained and are taught to understand that, don't build retaining walls on the floodplain because it damages the most essential function of them all. And that is that the hyporheic zone, that is the soil that comes in contact with the water, is the zone that purifies the water. Otherwise, you will not have clean water. And then you need to, take it further and make it a behavioral and, a level intervention where people start to stop, putting Harpic and, cleaning their toilets with Harpic and phenyl and all these toxic other, hundreds of toxic chemicals that are then going and polluting their waterways.
So Dr. Fayaz, if I can return to you briefly, because restoration is not a one-time intervention. What lessons do you think that restoration of the Yamuna floodplains offers in terms of balancing ecological objectives with urban development pressures in a dense city like Delhi? Like he's touched upon a lot of other cities. So you particularly do have experience in other cities as well, but I guess Yamuna has always been your favorite.
Yes.
So,
Madam, if you see, when you talk about Yamuna, I will, if you allow me, I will use my mother to explain Yamuna.
sure.
Actually, in the morning, I was talking to Yogesh and Saurabh about it. My mother is 86, 87 years old, very old, cannot walk properly. And she wear kurti pajama. So I carried one jeans for her and I took her for manicure, cut her hair, put a lot of lipstick on it. I didn't ask my mother that, are you mentally stable? Your heart is functioning, your lung is breathing. And that is the scenario. So still, I tell you, DDA's Yamuna Basti Park offers a great lesson to the nation that how a systematic ecological restoration plan can bring a lot of goods to the river. And it should be based on typical ecological restoration principle, community ecology, and ecological sciences. What is ecological principle that we need to understand? And for everybody, I like to share. Ecology principle is not a rocket science. It says that you need to have a site. For example, this is a site. When you have a site, you look at the ecological history of the site before you intervene, before you do anything. Then you look at the, find out a reference, closest possible reference ecosystem before you intervene. And then on the basis of available resource, manpower, slowly you intervene. Then the nature will breathe, the nature will smile. And I tell you, knowing the fact that Yamuna is one of the very important life-supporting landscape of Delhi, even though it is suffering, but still it is giving ecological goods and services. So therefore, floodplain restoration has a lot more impact for ecological finding or ecological objective in such a development race. So I think it's a very important, it's a very, very important component. One more thing, madam, I'd like to add.
Sure.
Saurabh said road system. And since couple of years I'm working on it, soon I will come out with some idea that how could we see road as an ecosystem? You see now, we have houses, we have long tree, we have grasses, we have central verge, we have, slopes to carry rainwater. Central verge, we have tall tree in Delhi at many places. How we manage road as an ecosystem so that it not only give ecological services, but also become sustainable structure. So that we are working on it and probably we'll share with you, madam.
That'll be great. So while we talk about balance, Juhi, Tetra Pak's program include, like you earlier also mentioned, it includes work with waste picker communities, because that is something that is going to bring an impact in how we are able to bring about the change. So how critical you think is the formalization or support of these workers, and if there are any PPP models which can help city governments scale the livelihood-led recycling systems sustainably?
So waste pickers are the very backbone of waste management systems. And paradoxically, again, they are the most vulnerable sections of the society. Even having the basic human rights like access to water, sanitation, they are really living in poor conditions. It's not there. So it's very, very essential, but there are systemic challenges that need to be done. I just want to share one example how we have been working with a grassroots NGO called Bal Vikas Dhara in Rangpuri Pahadi, NCR, Delhi region. And there we are focusing on the 3 pillars on education of the children, healthcare, and livelihoods. So most of these children, if you look at them, they are out of school. So they are, they need to be mainstreamed into schools, but they need non-formal education centers to be ready to go to those schools. So we've created 7 non-formal education centers with this NGO, and where the children are studying, and every year there's an enrollment happening in mainstream schools. So again, when one level of requirement is met, there are next level of aspirations which come. Like these children, when we met them last year, they asked us for a library. They said, we want to study. So
That's
we
great.
created a library made of recycled cartons for them.
Mm.
So not just as an education tool, but also for them to understand their parents are engaged in waste picking, how what they are collecting can be turned into something of value.
That's interesting.
Latest development on the project is that we've also been able to give them a computer education center, which was a need. They said we now have education, but we want to be employable. Computer literacy comes with it. So we opened up a computer center, and very happy to share that one of the girls has just got a job. She's getting a 5,000 rupee salary in that foundation that she's worked with, and she's very proud of what she's been able to do associating with this project. The project is called Asha Ki Kiran. And as part of the healthcare project, healthcare efforts, we have a doctor providing OPD services 3 out of the week, 3 days in a week to these people, waste workers. There are a lot of challenges because they are handling hazardous waste, so skincare and other problems are there. So the doctor is giving advisory services to them and also subsidized medicines. Then on livelihood, we came across a lot of women who said, I am currently engaged with my husband in waste management, but the income is not enough for us to really take care of our households. So what can we do additional? So this livelihood center basically trains them on tailoring services, and a lot of them are now looking at opening or getting associated with some sort of boutiques. So it's a very nice thing, and I'm just sharing it. We are now planning to do a fashion show with
Oh,
these
great. Nice.
people. They're very excited about it.
Yeah.
So it's not just about
yeah, great.
doing CSR. It's also about providing dignity to the kind of work they are doing. As a next level, what Tetra Pak is also doing is we are associated with responsible sourcing initiative, because we understand that by this we are only able to target or support 5,000 waste workers, but globally there are 40 million waste workers, and how do you really support them? So this particular program, basically focuses on economic empowerment for the waste pickers. It focuses on health and safety. For example, PPE kits. We always say that they need to wear waste when they're handling, waste. But the thing is that is the PPE properly designed? Because currently they face a lot of challenges in terms of waste handling with this wearing these gloves. What is the right PPE design for them to be able to work efficiently? So we are looking at those aspects. We are looking at autonomy and inclusion, collective representation for these waste pickers. So currently we are looking at partners like Hasiru Dala and Swachh to really implement this program. This is again a collective bit, not just Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is there, PepsiCo is there, and a couple of partners like international waste management agencies who really understand the pain points of these waste workers at a ground level. So how financial literacy is important, for example. So all these trainings, efficiencies in waste management, and how to empower them economically is core agendas of the program, and we're really looking forward to the learning.
That's great. I think all of us here and probably the entire city of Delhi should be thanking Tetra Pak and people like you who are touching the lives at a grassroots level. And these are the people who are making a difference to our daily lives without realizing that there is a system that is running completely under it. Great to know. Dr. Dubey, one final quick question. Institutions like IIFM generate deep expertise on forestry, ecology, and landscape systems. Yet, urban planning processes often remain siloed. So, according to you, what practical mechanisms could improve engagement between the ecological institutions and the urban development authorities so that we influence the city level planning in that regard?
Yeah. So basically, first there has to be a desire to collaborate, desire to work together, between these kinds of bodies and all kinds of research or educational, these kinds of institutions in the country. I mean, that is where it actually begins. But what is important is that all these, developmental authorities, and wherever they are, in whichever cities that they operate, they will have to mainstream. They'll have to mainstream the ecology into their way of working. So they will have to set up. All of them must have some ecology review planning cells or some ecology center where you start offering internships is one of the finest ways of bringing in new ideas. Unfortunately, the way we work, we don't look at our students very seriously, and we think that these are just the bunch of monkeys who are trying to study and make a life for themselves. This is the younger generation. They are beaming with ideas. Their mind is more active than ours. 50 plus, your mind starts settling down. You're not able to think as much as these guys can think. They will bring in they revolt with the ideas. So opening up or creating such kind of openings for the young lot to come in, provide them the platform to speak and be heard. Because traditionally we always think that people who have a lot of experience, or people who have a lot of white gray hair, I have a lot of gray hair, long also, but I mean, they only have the right to speak. And so younger generation does not. So collaborate with multiple institutions, get all the young mind that we have in our country. And Delhi, of course, is a big city with a lot of institutions out here, a lot of good universities out here. My ex-colleague is sitting out here, Dr. Pradyut, who works with Indraprastha University. There is, Lucknow has a campus over here. IIT Delhi is here. MDI Gurgaon is here. Delhi University is here. There's no dearth of such good quality institutions in Delhi. Go and collaborate, sign MOUs with them, find out specific areas in which you can work together. They should not be just, one-time MOUs or, some consulting assignment to be given, which is just one-off consultancy. Engage into a long drawn process based on the expertise that these institutions have. So make that part of your, day-to-day and regular working. Then one thing that is extremely important is that we should not shy away from capacity building of, the in-house capacity building. If you need some knowledge, you will have to undergo, I mean, the organizations will have to think where these gaps are. Those knowledge gaps will have to be fulfilled. An organization, if I want to understand something of management, I'm an ecologist, I'm a wildlife biologist. And if I think that, I know everything, I've done PhD from best of the place, I will never be learn anything about management unless I go and surrender myself in front of a management specialist and tell him that, okay, boss, teach me, project management, teach me, how the financial management is being done. Unless I learn it, it is not going to happen. So I think there's a great amount of need for capacity building within these authorities for multiple levels of people, so that ecology should always be at the forefront. As I conclude, no matter what we do, we are all a big aspirational society today. We are all wanting, big money, fat money, big houses, big cars, more houses, one for son, one for daughter. We fail to realize that three fundamental things that we require for living is fresh air, water, and food. Unfortunately, we do not have any capacity and capability to produce them. They are all coming free of cost from nature, all coming free of cost. So ultimately, why are we living? The day you stop breathing, you are a dead vegetable. Your story of life ends there. You sleep every day. You don't even know if you're going to wake up next morning or not. But still, you sleep with a lot of plans. That tomorrow I will do this, I'll go to this mall, I'll buy this, I'll buy that. We forget that ecology is fundamental to our survival. Everybody in this country, not just DDA, everybody in this country should look at everything through the lens of ecology and environment. The day we are able to increase that level of awareness, everything will automatically start changing. That every development that we would want to do, we'll first look at the ecological infrastructure and see that we do not disturb this ecological infrastructure, and let us then find ways how the development can possibly happen. It should not become expendable that because the land is short, so there is some open savanna land lying which is being classified as wasteland, and so let us go and encroach this. Itni zameen to padi hui hai, isme bana lete hain. Even in terms of the restoration has to be an intelligent restoration. Sometimes restorations that are not done intelligently, everything that is green may not be truly ecological in nature. That just by growing trees, you think that you're doing great service and a lot of objectives achieved? No. The sensitivity of the ecosystem will have to be kept in mind before any restoration is being planned. So I think, range of these things, and it is up to the organizations to come forward and forge this understanding with, IFM, of course, is a national level institute, and DDA is most welcome to come and collaborate with us. We have range of expertise across, multiple areas. We would be very happy to contribute. But I always say, look for local resources that, where working becomes easier. But for any strategic level issues, please come to us. We would be very, very happy to collaborate and, provide insights and help you to, work out a long-term futuristic strategy on sustainability. Thank you so much.
So kind of you. Thank you so much. So I thank all our panelists here. So what I see is what emerges clearly from this discussion is that nature-based infrastructure is not about cosmetic greening or treating ecology as an afterthought. Like all of the panelists have mentioned in some way or the other, that it is about recognizing ecological systems as functional, measurable, and investable assets. You see as something quantifiable that is going to give you benefit is probably one of the ways that you are going to work towards it and keep it at the center of your thought process and your planning infrastructure. So from the perspective of the Delhi Development Authority, I must, and if I may say, that this is not a theoretical debate that we are trying to have here. In Delhi, we are actively restoring our floodplains via ecological methods and strengthening our green corridors, developing various biodiversity parks, as Dr. Fayaz is already a part of it, along with our Professor Sia Babu and their entire team. And we are trying to embed ecological thinking into statutory planning and project implementation as well at the same time. We acknowledge that such transformations, like you just mentioned, they demand sustained institutional commitment and cross-sector collaboration and a culture of continuous learning. And as you also suggested, that probably local resource is the best to partner with. So as you saw today, one of the universities we partnered with was DTU. However, there are about 5 MOUs that we are seeking with various departments of Delhi University. For certain reason, it could not be concluded today, but that is in the pipeline with various departments. So, and it's going to be a long-term collaboration, as you have suggested, and we look forward to achieving something that we think would add the ecology as an infrastructure to our planning perspectives. So if cities are to become genuinely climate ready, resilience cannot rely on engineered solutions alone is all what we've started from. And it must be built through living systems that call for our planners, our ecologists, policymakers, industry and communities to work together. To fill the gaps, I guess that's the only way to go. And we hope our conversations like this, like such, help us move forward from awareness to integration and from dialogue to decisive action. Thank you so much.
I'm actually very happy that at least, we have started to talk about this now and openly. These are no longer, the covert discussions. Yes. At least these discussions are happening in, larger and open forum. So on that account, huge round of applause to Delhi Development Authority. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
एक्चुअली हमेशा मैं कहता हूँ टाइगर पानी पिलाता है, टाइगर स्कूल लगाता है, टाइगर खेती कराता है, और अक्सर हाँ लोग पूछते हैं कि ये क्या पागलपन है। तो मैंने जानने की कोशिश की बच्चों की, जहाँ जहाँ टाइगर के वायबल पॉपुलेशन है वहाँ घास का मैदान बहुत अच्छा है। टाइगर घास नहीं खाता, टाइगर जिसको खाता है वो घास खाता है। अब जरा देखो, जहाँ घास के मैदान अच्छे हैं वहाँ मॉनसून के वक्त में सरफेस रन ऑफ ड्रास्टिकली रिड्यूस होता है और आसपास के गांव में कुओं में पानी का लेवल ऊपर हो जाता है और इस तरह वो पानी पिलाता है। और जब मिट्टी सॉइल मॉइस्चर बेहतर होती है तो खेती अच्छी होती है, प्रॉस्पेरिटी बढ़ती है और गांव वाले कहते हैं बच्चों को, now no more cattle grazing and goat grazing, let's go to school. So look at the perception, one tiger makes such a huge change. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, gentlemen. From awareness to integration, from discussion to decisive action, and DDA being complimented on stage. That's exactly the kind of moments we expect from the DDA Green Expo. We are very glad that all our experts are happy being on the same page, and we would like to share a token of our gratitude for your time and for your expertise that you have shared with us. I request Vanshika to please present a memento to all the panelists and our moderator for sharing their wonderful stories and their knowledge with us. I think it's high time for this wake-up call. And the best part is it's not even a debate. We are all on the same page, just trying to figure out how to get there. Yes. And thank you, ma'am, for sharing the stories of the waste pickers with us. Really the kind of dose of optimism we needed today. And along with optimism and realism, we keep on moving forward, steering ahead with the DDA Green Expo. Beyond Growth, Reimagining Urban Futures. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. We will now have a very special masterclass on solar innovation for urban infrastructure. It is a focused demonstration of advanced solar technologies and applications for urban environment, highlighting scalable solutions for public spaces, institutional buildings, and infrastructure. On stage.
सभी को नमस्कार। कहते हैं दिल्ली दिल वालों की है और मैं हिंदुस्तान के दिल मध्य प्रदेश से आया हूँ। As Khari Energy, I would like to present something that probably you people would not have seen yet. हम जिन चीज़ों पे अभी यहाँ बात कर रहे हैं उन पे कुछ हमने प्रैक्टिकल काम किए हुए हैं और आज इस मास्टर क्लास के थ्रू हम उनके बारे में आपसे चर्चा करेंगे। Thank you DDA, thank you Nilima ma'am for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to showcase the work that we have done, we are doing in Madhya Pradesh and taking it to other cities, other states in India and the globe. So after so many discussions, I think we all know the key challenges that we are facing. There are several challenges that the ecosystem, the sustainable ecosystem needs for the city. One of the major thing that that is required, or one of the major component of it, is green energy. How renewable energy can be provided, and how cities must rethink about the renewable energy. As some of our esteemed and knowledgeable people here, they discuss about these urban heat map, heat spots that are created within the city. We all know how the peak energy demand goes in summer and nighttime in winter. There are public lands available. One of the best example is this park, which are either not utilized or underutilized. We have floodplain degradation. These parks have their own cost for maintenance and sustaining, and that is ever increasing. And then we have water stress around these green belts. So when we think of energy, the best thing and best energy that comes to our mind is solar energy. And when we say solar, we have to think beyond rooftop. When we say urban, the only thing that comes to our mind is rooftop solar. But in the cities, in the metros, even the rooftop is limited. It's not even, if you, the usable rooftop is not even 5% of the total roofs available because of various reasons. Then where is the land? Where do we put these upcoming solar panels? Cities must now integrate energy, water management, biodiversity, and urban agriculture. How? Can you play the video? Video number 2, please. I have a question from audience. Please let me know whether this is a park or a solar plant. Video number 2, please. Can anyone answer? It's a solar plant or park? Yes, that is what is called agrivoltaic. And that is what we are trying to bring to our cities. Let's think beyond rooftop. Let's use our open space. Let's use our parks as energy asset. These parks, as you have seen in the video, let's install solar panels on these parks. You see, historically, if we look at the few thousands years or 100 years, the way we have evolved, that the human being have evolved for our shelter and protection from the environmental changes. We have done same for our animals, pet animals, but we have done nothing to our soil, to our land. We have been cutting trees, and now our land, our topsoil is lying naked. These solar panels can mimic the actual plants. The same urban land can be put to dual use. And what we have to do is just elevate the panels and provide some kind of spacing between those panels to enable the sunlight. We can use these open spaces as walking track. We can use these open spaces for urban horticulture. They can be used as shade zones within the same park, amphitheater, and the same thing can be used as EV charging stations. And mind you, none of the photos you see in this presentation, in this session, is AI generated or stock image. These are all from the actual site in Madhya Pradesh. We can also plan to have urban horticulture within these parks. the people working there, it reduces your O&M cost substantially. It also provides local vegetables and fresh food items to the surrounding areas. We can do medicinal plants. We can do, say, tolerant crops. In fact, we have done wheat also in some of the specific configuration, but that is not applicable for our urban planning. In our environment, in DDA kind of environment, we can definitely have urban horticulture, biodiversity corridors, medicinal plants, and nurseries. These urban solar plants reduce the temperature substantially. 2 to 5 degrees centigrade of temperature reduction we have observed in open areas. They reduce transpiration. They improve the soil moisture. So when we say integration of solar, integration of energy in the existing ecosystem, we have parks with solar. There are multiple ways. We can have solar canopies, as I told, we can have walking paths, public facilities, and biodiversity and horticultural crops. I'll show you one more small clip where you can see how these things are possible with integration of solar panel. Can you place the video number 1?
Can farms generate electricity? Yes, and this one in Madhya Pradesh is leading the way, generating enough energy to power around 8,000 homes every day.
Agrovoltaic is the concept where food and energy both are generated from the same land mass.
As India pushes for renewable energy, solar plants penetrating fertile land are raising concerns. Agrivoltaic helps us farm while harnessing solar power without any trade-off.
Going in agrivoltaic is the real good thing because cultivable land is much higher in India.
Anand runs India's largest agrivoltaic farm in Sagar, MP. He has successfully cultivated crops like strawberry, lettuce, cucumber, tomato, and several others while having generated 4.5 megawatt of clean energy. Mounted 6 to 8 feet high, these solar panels optimize sunlight for crops, provide shade that cools the farm, and reduce water needs by protecting against extreme heat.
Simple agrivoltaic saves you water of almost 25 to 30%. So this addresses actually all three requirements: food, energy, and water.
Kari Energy, in collaboration with farmers, tested agrivoltaic farming on various crops including wheat.
And this year we successfully got the 100% output.
Agrivoltaic farming gives farmers extra income from both crops and energy, while preserving fertile land, using resources efficiently, and supporting food security.
Other than parks, other institutions can also install solar in sustainable manner. They can be solar parking, the car parking, pathways, canopies. So it's not about whether, it's about how we integrate, how we deploy these solar panels to our existing parks, our existing buildings, our existing pathways to make it sustainable. So what is the proposal? This is the proposal we have. We call it, I hope, Indraprasth Harit Aditya Urja Park. These parks can become role model for urban farming, for medicinal plants. It can reduce your water consumption in these parks by 25 to 30%. These parks can also become self-sustaining in electricity. Currently, they have a huge electricity bill for the common area lighting, water pumping. All these requirements can be done by these parks themselves. If you look at the economics, financial side, these parks are not or these systems are not charity driven or donation driven. They are self-sustaining. And this is a basic economics. If you see, if you put 200, 250 to 500 kilowatt based on the size of the park, we put this plant, a typical 250 kilowatt plant, it generates around 9 million units of energy over 25 years. And it avoids, it's as if we take typical tree, it eliminates half a ton of carbon over its life of 25 years. Then this 250 kilowatt plant is as good as planting 15,000 trees. That much carbon saving, carbon sequestration it does. And if you look at the pure financial side, within 6 to 9 years, these plants can recover their money. And for the rest of the remaining 20 years plus, they are free. And this I have done at a very conservative value of around 8 rupees per unit. So tomorrow when the unit changes, the rate increases, your savings are substantially high. So these parks can, instead of becoming a cost, the expense head, they can become revenue generating head, at the same time sustaining the environment. You look at these papayas, these are fully matured papayas, and they are not somewhere in partial shaded environment or in open area. They are right below the solar panels. Other than financial, these plants have ecological impact. They benefit, they thrive. Otherwise, solar plants are known for killing the biodiversity. With the proper agri PV installation, these plants can become hub. They can become center of biological diversity. So let's join us in shaping the future of sustainable urban farming. Thank you. If anybody has any question, you can put it. Thank you very much. Yes. Sir, we are working on it. We have signed an MOU with Tamil Nadu Agriculture University. These plants are almost 2 years old and they have started collecting the data. The plant is in Sagar, Madhya Pradesh, and Tikamgarh, Madhya Pradesh. We are creating similar plant in Burhanpur, that's close to Maharashtra. So right now, 3 plants we have. At different activities we are testing, like 14 different crops we have tested. And in the Bundelkhand environment, where the crop is not that, the soil is not that supportive, we have grown strawberries. And it's not by putting extra pesticide or chemicals. It is because the microclimate which is changed, which is changed below those panels. Yes, that's a long-term study and we are doing it. But because of that diversity, that soil condition change, we are able to grow crops which are otherwise grown in only hilly regions or say partially cold region kind of thing. And this farm, for just to give you an idea, the farmer has put 100 rupees entry ticket. So we can provide this kind of, see, our children are not exposed to farming. We take them to our village somewhere 200, 500 kilometers away. We can give them the actual farming experience by, this farmer is earning money from just by giving ticket. He's charging 100 rupees. People come, they pluck the strawberry. He has a weighing machine there. They weighed, they paid that then and there. Yes, ma'am.
That you faced?
There are limitations in our.
Also, if too much rain or things like that happen, then what do you do?
It actually protects, ma'am.
It protects.
See, there are 2 questions you asked. there are challenges, but most of the challenges are in our mind. We think whether it is possible or not. Can we grow tomatoes? Can we grow strawberry? Can we grow papaya? It will not grow. It's not that kind of. We have C3 crop, we have C4 crop. So we are generally biased by our scientific study, old study, but we don't see the changing environment. And we have not done this kind of experiment. People used to do this jhum farming earlier, these Adivasis do. So there the crops are grown in partial shading environment, the same environment we are creating. What was the second question? Sorry. Yes, it is
climate change.
Climate
So
change,
all
in
the
fact,
states are,
yes. Climate change, in fact, because of climate change, these are more useful. If there's heavy rain, if there's any say heavy wind, these panels become sealed to the crop. And we have observed that crops below these specially designed panels, it's not specially designed solar panels, special design of installing these panels. The crop is better than the open field crop, the reference field. They protect them. That's what I was saying. We have done protection for ourselves. We have done protection for animals. But with the changing environment, we have not given any kind of protection to our crops. Why we do the poly house, net house? It is a partial environment we are creating, artificial. These panels, they create that artificial environment. So they sustain along with them, they go together with your ecosystem. And they in fact improve the ecosystem of that land. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for presenting such a detailed presentation, not only well within time, even before time. And the leftover time was utilized very well by our audience. We got to hear some interesting questions. And we would like to thank you, sir, for sharing your expertise with the Memento. I would like to request Ms. Meha Chandra to please join us on stage and present a memento of the DDA Green Expo to our expert, Mr. Manish Khare, Managing Director, Khare Energy Private Limited. Who shared his presentation and masterclass on solar innovations for urban infrastructures. Thank you, sir. And we will have a quick lunch. As you know, we have some catching up to do with time. So we will have a quick 30 minutes lunch. After that, we will be starting our next panel, which will be on responding to urban heat, policy, planning, and public health. Summer is coming. So let's update ourselves on this topic as well. Please join us for lunch, everybody. After 30 minutes, I'll see you back in the hall.